Back in the 1970s, I was doing what most young guys doing. Finished just playing football. Still passionate about my camping and generally just outdoor activities. I had a few mates and we thought we'd have a crack at what Sambar hunting. It wasn't that much known about it back then. And information, virtually none. It was a very secret society virtually. So there was more trial and error when we were doing our hunting. By the 1980s, we were having some success. We were learning more about the Sambar, all by ourselves. We weren't even members of a deer hunting club or anything. By the 1990s, I was producing videos because the first thing I was, before I was even a hunter, was a photographer, doing weddings and just a lot on wildlife. But the camera's technology wasn't that good, so that virtually had to be very skilled to even be a photographer back then. Not like today with all the technology. So sit back and enjoy. Okay, well, stalking to me is the pinnacle of hunting in Victoria. This head was taken in 1989 on a backpack trip when we first started. So this head is it's got a lot of memories, and even though it's close to 33 years ago, I still remember it vividly. It was back in the times when the semi-automatics were illegal, and as we know with Port Arthur, they made them illegal, so everyone's changed to just a recreational hunting rifle, bolt action. And but I first started hunting back in 1981, so that was 41 years ago. And there's a stag that's not here now, it's all over the place at the moment, but I didn't have enough room from the ones I've taken, so it was sort of I gave it to a guy, and I think he gave it to another guy, so it's done more travelling than it was when it was alive. So yeah, so this was in the basin and around Mount Bongarad. Ray and I did several trips there one year, and just to learn recon, and we found out there was a populace of good sambar in the area, and then the next year, in I think that was 88 and 89, we started hunting fairly solid, did a few trips. Every trip was successful, not that we took a stag, but we seen a lot of animals. And that was probably the catalyst for me to take up filming. And I just remember one early morning I'd come to a wallow, I could hear noises, and I walked up and here's a stag, not very big, probably about 25, but beautiful head. And I just always loved my photography, and that was probably the catalyst to where I am today with my filming and my photography. Now I don't hunt with a rifle, as I see. So, and around the room, if I go over to my right, there's a few good heads here too. A different take. Ray and I used to work on the precedence of taking one stag a year. It wasn't one stag per trip, so a lot of times we just did fishing and photography. So with me, I did a lot of photography of deer. As say, I'll pan over this side. Here we are in this corner. Got some beautiful heads. That's 30 inch I was taken on a one-gated club trip in May 1997. And the one below it was a hunt with a couple of mates, Klaus Beck and Dave Cunningham. Virtually those two did come out of the same area, because I know that area very well well and knew where they were and how to hunt it. Just recently I went in there and didn't see any stags, but got some good footage of a spiky, and it's not all about stags to me, it's generally photographing whatever. In 2000, I think 2000, I filmed a hind from about 10 feet away. Or modding being closest, you can almost hit me with a hook, which I'll show in this beginning part one. And this is an antler win 33. You see, but going back, you can see where he lost it. I'd like to see him in his prime, maybe 2 or 3 years before that. Younger animal, fitter, but he was going back. And we actually took this animal. A friend of mine took this animal, Mario was his name, and I found both cast antlers. He's got the other one and I've got this one, but definitely he wants this one back. So, but yeah, you can see the heaviness of it. It's a bit like that other big slingshot tops that has got the weight. But the tips as far as hunting is hunted for good times. Deer o'clock, simple. Normally that's at daybreak when light is good enough to hunt, or even leave before daybreak to get into the area to hunt, because these deer are moving back by then, and you always find deer will move back, and later on in the year, like as I say, it's July, the stags are starting to get, some are in velvet at the moment. We've seen a few in velvet the other week, and but some have been hard antler. I filmed one the other day in hard antler, which I'll probably show to you later. But yes, very memorable trip, and on that 30-incher, it was, as I say, a club trip. And that was another thing, I've seen that stag. I tried to get another guy onto that stag. He would have been 28, and I'd say he's the same stag. He had the same looks, unless he's got a twin brother. But you couldn't get better first symmetrical as that one. Even the bottom one, like the brows were perfectly even, and that's what I went for. I've seen a lot of heads, big heads over the years, and I remember one big head I've seen that had a broken in the top, and I could have taken him, but I elected not to because he had that broken in it. And one of my friends ended up taking him on a backpack trip. Yeah, it's a red chittle. To me, they're good to hunt. They're definitely different than Sambar, because you got normally all the reds are in the raw, so they're usually, you can raw them, you can bring them in. You can raw Sambar in too. I do it vocally by my mouth. I don't use any electronic devices like back in those days. There was, yeah, you couldn't call them back, but a lot of people didn't believe it until they seen your footage, and they go, wow, that can be called. And when I've done talks at different associations, I've sort of let the cat out of the bag how you can call it with your mouth. There's a few other electronic aids, but to me that's not hunting. To bring it in, but I never took a stag if I could call it. These are all hunted, and that was the way I am. It's why they are quality hunts to me, memorable. Till the day I die, I'll still remember it. So, and 30 inches is probably more memorable because I was with a lot of good guys, and yeah, I just remember before I got home, everyone knew I'd shot this 30 incher. That was how back in them days. So the 30 incher was, it was like hen's teeth. You know. I shot a lot of animals around that 29, 28 mark, but had good shape, and every head I got here is completely different. I always look for something different. I always loved the overspread, but that one there is 30 by 30 by 30, or was back in '97. I don't shoot stags in velvet. It's my own personal privilege to do that. I've never seen I've seen stags in velvet when they're first mounted and they look pretty good, but give it 12 to 24 months and then nothing like it, unless you get it in hard antler that's stripping it off. That looks quite good. So you get the full potential of the animal when it's in hard antler. I've seen a lot of deer shot over the years, just knobs, that could have been something like that. Yeah, I'm very particular on certain animals, and as I said, there's a few of these animals I used to see over the period of time. I've got smaller stags in here when I first started hunting. This one was in the corner here. I'll pan it around in a minute, but that was taken in 1990, I think, this one here. That one was on, I wasn't going to take this animal, but a taxidermist, not Chris, but Charlie, wanted to do a mount. He was experimenting with this semi-sneak mount, but this one was sniffing. He wanted the head, so get honked at, and once you sort of got onto a stag, you could really concentrate without being spooking other deer, because they weren't as thick in numbers. So they're all different. Every stag I've taken is different. All pretty good, like big brows, nice tops, and there's a 30 inch over there. I've got a few 30 inches out in the shed that I didn't get mounted, as I said. I had a mate of mine who, he's a taxidermist, and we worked well together, and we did a few expos. I was doing videos back in the 90s, and we did a few expos, and he was doing taxiderms and I was doing the videos, and there was not much on Sambar at the time. The only way you could learn is either through a stalking organisation or association or ADA, and then there was other branches sort of formed over those years. That was probably, if I was an inexperienced hunter or getting into hunting now, I'd probably join some sort of a club, because that's where you're going to get information. You're going to meet the best hunters going around. All these deer, I've been just one-on-one. That's what I love about the hunting. It's to get in as close as possible, and take these stags. Without them, they know you're there, but as you're hunting, you got to just it's something you experience over years. Sometimes it doesn't work, but hunting is a primal instinct. We're all different as hunters, and deer are different too. They're different intellect too. Some of these animals are very smart. This one here, I've seen him the year before, and this one I've seen the year before too, in about 14 k's from where I actually took him. So they're probably the most elusive deer arguably in the world, but definitely in Australia. And a big animal like this can hide in a bit of thick bush, and you don't see. You can be 10 feet away from it and you won't see it. You're just looking for an ear, or just like this one here. And as I said, you're just waiting for a twitch or a movement of the antler at the top or a branch. You may know exactly where the deer is, but you can't see him. And there's no point in taking a risky shot at a deer. Always made sure that I identified the target, especially these days with the amount of hunters. And this is just something that doesn't happen overnight. It's a progression of 40 years. And in that, these are only just some of the reference there. There's not just the deer I see. I'd hate to think how many stags I've seen over the years. You know, now there's more deer around. You see a lot of juvenile animals. Very hard to see these selected because they don't get that chance to grow now. A lot of these wouldn't make this reach. This animal might have been taken as a juvenile. You're not going to see the potential of what this mature animal is. But in saying that, if we had good game management in Australia, well, that'd be the case. In America, the juveniles that get shot would you'd be in jail. But I don't want to deny anyone from hunting, you know. But there's so much potential out there, and if you want to get a good stag, like a big trophy stag, you've got to put in the hard yards if you're a hunter, so to speak. As I said, with me, I love to hunt solo. On my camp, we go backpack and we camp together, but we never hunted together. We just went our different ways. Where are you going to hunt? We tee it up at that night. Which way are you going to be? So we knew exactly where we were, and there was always a safety precautions. And if someone did take a shot, we knew exactly where they were. Back in the early days, we didn't have radios, so that was another thing. We didn't have radios back then, so yeah. Oh, sorry, I was out of the picture, but yeah. Now I don't carry a rifle with me. I do mainly photography and filming a bit, and it's not just about deer. I just love the wildlife that we have in Australia. And sometimes I might go up the bush and see a few deer, that's fine, but I might be on another objective to film some native birds. Give it a few more months. We're in September when there's going to be a fair bit of activity with the stags. I'll most be likely photographing birds or raptors or even the odd fox or even a dingo or whatever. That's what it's about to me. It's just creating that vortex in nature that I love the most. Camping, the backpacking days. For 10 years I backpacked on my own, but you guys might not believe this, but I was just learning about deer. Trying to get as much information about the deer, and I don't say I know everything, but I know a bloody lot. Where to find these deer and how do they react. And they're all different. They're all got different personalities. If they get wind of you or smell you or hear you, they draw the dots together. And I'm doing this little bit talk about cameras now. At the beginning, what I started with, well, I haven't got all the cameras that I started with, but I got some of the cameras. From the state of the art, what we got now, to what I used to shoot with. And I even got even more of an arcade camera, which I haven't got. But this is what I used to use back in the early 1990s, and before that it was a Sony Handycam Video 8. These say the battery's on it, but it's been sitting around for 30 years and I can't even open it now. It's not even on. Maybe I'll try and recharge it, but that's what I used to shoot with, and it was the old power system, and I'll go into that, what the difference was to what we got today with our 8K videos, or 4K videos that most people use, but now we're going to 8K. And the resolution, I'll give you a sample of what we were up against. And now these cameras are quite a good lens, but processor was very slow, compression lines in your footage, and the chromatic aberration was pretty infectious in your footage back then. But back 30 years ago we were watching 40 years ago we were watching black and white TV, so the progression was at that time was pretty amazing. But we can't stop technology, and what's happened now is we've gone from that. And then by early 1990s I went with this. I did this one because I was doing a lot of backpacking and weight was really an issue, and by having this, which did photos and video. Same issue, it went to high definition, but chromatic aberration, distortion in the footage, and you'll see that as you'll see the progression through the videos. Through when I finish the beginning, then I'll go into advancements in photography and what our footage is today. And a lot of stuff on YouTube that's being presented is done with either cameras like that or proper professional video cameras. Even our mobile phones now is it multi-purpose in call, and it does amazing photos and video. And I see guys using gimbals. Well, that's another thing. Back in there, we didn't have vibration reduction in those, where in a lot of the modern cameras you got vibration reduction. Autofocus was so much superior. Even with these, you had to manually focus them. The first one I bought was fairly expensive, and then they sort of, as they got more popular with these small compact cameras, that they got to start to get cheaper. The megapixels on the first one I had was 1.3 megapixels. Now these cameras here, this one here does close to 48 megapixels, if not maybe a bit more. Even the footage on this, photos on this in JPEG or RAW is quite good. But you see the difference in this camera to that camera, because the crispness and the sharpness and the detail is so much superior to even the bridge camera. And just wanted to show you what the progression has been with those over the years. As I said, when I started filming, there's only 2 or 3 guys filming at the time, and that was how it was. There wasn't many deer around. The populace at Sambar wasn't like it is today, where Sambar are widespread. So it was very challenging, especially when you were photographing, because you could walk all day and not see bugger all. Where today, if I don't go out and see maybe 20, 30 deer in a day, finding pockets of them, still knowing where to get the footage of something like uniquely like these stags. It was good back then because there wasn't as many hunters either, so we were allowed to see these stags over years grow, and only then we could get footage like this, where today the abundance of hunters, more deer getting shot. A lot of them don't reach maturity. They're shot about 4 or 5 year old, where we used to let those stags go. And you can see here, you can see the connection I'm trying to make, the interaction where I'm holding this deer with curiosity, turning back to me because it's trying to figure out what I am. They understand that you're not a threat to them. There's been isolated cases where the tables have been turned, where actually I've had deer follow me just in curiosity. They're a wonderful creature, intelligent, just doing what they do best, procreate, breed. As I say, I call them the gardeners of the bush, where our government at this point in time reckons they're a vermin, but they're doing more good for the environment than what the human race is doing for our environment. But that's pretty hard to convince the government doesn't listen to the stakeholders of the bush or Alpine National Park. Our parks have been infiltrated by Greens, a majority. There's some good people in there. But as I said, I've spoke about that numerous times. We do minimal game management.
they seem to say, yeah, you're a part, but we're not going to do bugger all for you. Whereas if you're in Europe or in United States or any other country where they revere the game, well, they're not game anymore. They once upon a time were. They put them on the feral list. So that gives, uh, it's created a monster because you see now we are hunter-gatherers. I won't go into too much on government because you can see what's happening to the world at the moment. We are self-sufficient in a lot of ways, even though we still have our vehicles, we have our camping equipment, which we buy out of our own hard-earned money. The government don't realise that the majority of four-wheel drives in Victoria are owned by fishermen, hunters, and just general outdoorsmen type people that like camping and that. And there's it sort of upsets me a little bit when I talk about government at the moment because we see what they're doing to the deer with the uh, aerial culling in areas of Alpine National Park, which is not really doing anything really. It's just wasting taxpayers' money. We're seeing what it's doing to the waterways. It's contaminating our streams because they leave the carcasses there to rot. The only ones that probably benefited a little bit from it's probably dingoes and raptors, but other than that, not really because disease goes into our waterways. I hate to be going to an area where they've culled animals and just to drink the water, you'd have to make sure you boil it because there's a good chance that you'll get very sick. That's never been brought in consideration. They were never spoke to the stakeholders, us as hunters, or any if they have spoken to associations, because I'm not a member anymore. But it's sad. It's for what we where we come from. And I think we talk about the good old days, and they were the good old days. We didn't have the interference by minority groups or blatant mistakes by the government. But in saying that, you as a hunter, you are a person, and you must have people that we are a majority of people, but don't seem to do much at all. What you're seeing now is what I enjoy the most here. The footage you're seeing here is a hind was filmed in 2000, where I'm interacting with the hind from, I'd say, about 12 feet away. You can see a young calf. She's very protective. That's why she's warning me not to go any closer. So the animals are very protective. This is footage on the old power system video cams. At that time, it was brilliant. As I said, we've come a long way. Now, this was power. It's only like a very small pixel resolution, where today we're running 8K. I hate to think in another 5 years we were probably running 12K. I don't know. And this is what we used to do. Even the photography aspects has improved that so much now. Back in these days, we were using film cameras, so you had to wait for the processing. And a lot of the photos you're seeing here may have just started in just the digital age. That was around, as I say, 1995 we started digital. So we were going into digital photography and videography. And yeah, this was taken on the old POW system, this footage. It used a brilliant camera at the time. It was a Sony Handycam. Yeah, but it's been the journey, and yeah, a lifelong journey. And as I said, thanks for watching it, and I hope you get some satisfaction and education out of it, as we did, let's say. And I look forward to doing the next video, which will be Stalking Part 2, which will be, I won't be the beginning because this is the beginning, but the journey. I'll call it probably the journey. And you'll see better footage as we progress through the years. Okay, thanks for watching. Enjoy.